one.
Hello, welcome everyone. It is officially October all month long, and you have breasts, it turns out, all year long, but we hyper focus on them in the month of October. And I'm so excited that you guys are joining me for our first Thursday Zoom Live, and we have the most amazing, intelligent, talented, forward-thinking, cutting-edge, trailblazing doctor on planet Earth, in my humble opinion, Dr. Neal Barnard with us today. So, there he is!
Hi there, Christy. It's so great to see you.
Always great to see you. So, welcome everybody. We're going to do a little bit of just educating, kind of going over the four-pronged approach to beating breast cancer, throwing in a little bit of the science behind why we think that these are the four main drivers to maximally reducing your risk of ever getting this killer disease. Or if you are already living with breast cancer or have seen it in your rear view mirror, but you wonder if it's lurking and about to recur, all of these strategies have been scientifically backed to dramatically reduce both recurrence and death from breast cancer. So we're going to jump into that, and then we're going to jump into a little bit of like what's hot and new in the news in the last year since we kind of dove in together with the campaign. And eventually we're going to get to your questions and answer them live. So Neal, does that sound good to you?
That sounds fantastic. Let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to start with prong number one of your four-pronged approach to breast cancer. Very appropriately, it's what's at the end of your fork. So the first prong is to eat whole food, plant-based. I just said whole food. And interestingly, there was a study that came out literally just in June of this year that followed 65,000 women for a whopping 21 years. And they found that those following a healthy plant-based diet had a longer survival rate, and those following an unhealthy plant-based diet had 20% more breast cancer and more breast cancer death. So this is our plant-based world. Now, all of a sudden, I actually mentioned that study on Rachel Ray, which you guys can watch later this month. So spoiler alert, unless they edit it out. You could see on her face, she's like, oh, the fluffy vegan. Like it hit her why she says something like, oh, I have these friends. And she didn't say it, but she did not say that they were fat, which is what she was saying. And it hit her. And so it's interesting when we talk about eating plant-based, it does make a big difference what plants you're really eating in what form. So you can start eating a lot of highly processed, refined sugars, refined grains, and get your cookies, cakes, and Oreos and ice cream and beer. It's all vegan, and it will not lead to the maximal health benefits that we're aspiring to when we talk about going plant-based. The key to understanding why plants are so powerful inside you is to simply get the fact that all you did was stab something, put it in your mouth, chew, and swallow. What happens inside may be mysterious to you, but your cells are like, please, can you make it a plant? Because everything breaks down into chemicals, plant-based chemicals, animal-based chemicals, and those go flying through your bloodstream, saturating all the cells. It's like your cells are sitting in a little bathtub. It's called the cell microenvironment. And that environment can be screaming out pro-cancer or anti-cancer. Every time you swallow something, you are either elevating or decreasing estrogen levels. Estrogen feeds and fuels 80% of all breast cancers. You are either increasing or decreasing growth factors, particularly insulin, and the big daddy of them all, insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, which just screams at all your cells to grow, which is useful because we turn over 50 billion cells a day. So thanks, IGF-1. But your brain's super smart, tells your liver how much to make. You make an excess whenever you eat animal protein and animal fat. And that excess is like, oh, we already turned over the stomach cell lining today. What am I going to do? Oh, I know. Grow some plaque, grow some fat around that waist, grow that cancer into the blood, into the liver, into the lung, into the brain. Somebody better shut that IGF-1 down. And it's you with what's at the end of your fork. Plants lower IGF-1, animal products elevate it, which all just continues to lead to, oh, the other big thing is angiogenesis. Angio, blood vessel, genesis, birth, the birth of new blood flow. If you are a cancer cell and you aspire to be bigger than the tip of a ballpoint pen, you must create angiogenesis. And the foods we're eating are either pro-angiogenic, so a little piece of chicken is like, oh, here you go, cancer cell, let me get you a little more blood flow. Whereas eating soy, for example, is proven to be anti-angiogenic. Like, let me just squash those blood vessels away from you, cancer cell. So this all culminates in inflammation and free radical damage and oxidative stress. And when we get to the bottom line, it's DNA damage. It mutates a cell. And if the bathtub that cell is bathing in is full of like loofah pads and bubbles and lavender salts, all the things cancer loves, it will continue to proliferate and grow until finally it migrates into the bloodstream and out somewhere else and cause you fatal harm. When you eat plants, everything is tipped in the right direction. You decrease estrogen, you decrease insulin, you decrease IGF-1, you decrease angiogenesis, you decrease inflammation. There's one study that I love. I say that about all of my pivotal favorite studies that tip the scales for me, so that one day I literally walked downstairs and just said, we're vegan to the whole family. And that day stuck and we never looked back, and it's going towards 6 years. So one of those studies was not a big one, but it was powerful. So by not big, I mean there were only 24 hyperlipidemic men and women who were given a SAD, standard American diet, for breakfast. And they measured hourly levels of LDL cholesterol. So this is the bad cholesterol, and it's part of oxidative stress, just the inflammation and the wear and tear inside our bodies that sets that stage for illness to show up. And whatever is getting the most oxidative stress over and over, decade after decade, is going to be your killer. So if it's your heart all the time and your arterial vessels all the time, you're going to get a heart attack or high blood pressure. If it's your brain, dementia. If it's your breast cancer, right? So oxidative stress is really that stage onto which cancer or diabetes or heart attack or stroke or Alzheimer's wanders on, just at that time where the stage is perfectly set with enough chronically bad choices that disease is like, oh, I could live here happily. And so it does. All right, so back to the 24 people. They ate pancakes and bacon, steak and eggs. And then in the study, they measured hourly levels of cholesterol, and the LDL went up, up, up until noon. Then they gave them a hamburger and fries. Up, up, up until dinner. It's like these people are going to bed every night with fewer antioxidants, right? Like, what's going to quell the madness of the oxidative stress? It's an oxidant, so you need an antioxidant to shush it up. And those, my friends, really only come from plants. You will find your carnivore saying, no, there's antioxidants in meat. Literally 65 times the amount of antioxidant content is found in plants versus animals. And I kind of looked this up and did the math for a slideshow the other day. A cup of blueberries, 1 cup of blueberries, the antioxidant content in that, gram for gram, would have you eating 27.5 slices of cheese pizza for like 400 grams of fat and 7,000 calories versus 52 calories. So yes, there's like a speck, a little dot of salt worth of antioxidant in an animal. All right, so I'm butchering this. Okay, up, 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 right? They go to bed. Next day, same people, same sad meal, one change. A cup of strawberries. Pancakes and bacon, a cup of strawberries. LDL baseline, down, below baseline, down, down. Till noon, they have a hamburger and fries, a cup of strawberries. And now the strawberries are like, seriously, dude, I cannot. But it just goes up, up, up to baseline. Just a strategic side cup of strawberries. The antioxidant power in that was so tremendous that it could neutralize all of the oxidative madness. And what if then that whole meal had been amazing, like steel cut oats and blueberries with a tablespoon of flax and some cinnamon in there, maybe a walnut or two, and soy milk? Then the oxidative stress battle of food would be like over, and now what am I going to do? I know, I'll go out there and help this person. I'll reverse some plaque. I'll decrease the inflammation. I'll stop that angiogenesis. So every time you're lifting your fork to mouth, you are helping yourself or hurting yourself. You're moving toward cancer or away from cancer. And our deepest hope here through the Let's Beat Breast Cancer.org campaign is that you will choose to move away from cancer by making smarter food choices. So that's enough of my voice. I will come back in a second and talk about exercise, but Dr. Barnard, would you like to pick one of your 4 prongs?
Yeah, let me talk about the one that's for some people the most controversial of all, and that's what about alcohol? Because some of us have been thinking, gee, alcohol might actually have some health benefits. Maybe it reduces the risk of heart disease or Alzheimer's disease or something like that. There's been a discussion about that, but there was evidence that it's going to increase the risk of cancer. The jury has come back into the room, and the verdict is really pretty clear that alcohol increases the risk of breast cancer and other forms too. And there isn't really a particular safe level, but the more a person drinks, the higher the risk of breast cancer. And in other words, put it the other way, the less a person drinks, the lower their risk of breast cancer. Where does that leave us? Well, what it does mean is that all the restaurants and all the bars know about this too. And that's why when you look at their drinks menu, they've got all these mocktails that make you look just as chic as everybody else, but they've got drinks that are virgin drinks, non-alcohol drinks, and they work really well. It raises the question of why. And there are really 2 big reasons why alcohol might influence cancer risk. First one is that cancer starts when the chromosomes inside your cells, that DNA that makes you who you are, those chromosomes can be damaged. Alcohol does that, unfortunately. So that's the start of cancer. And then when cancer cells start to grow, that can be under the influence of too much estrogen in your body. And it looks like alcohol will increase that as well. So that's all part of the problem. So where does that leave us? When a lot of people have had the idea that up to 1 or 2 drinks a day, I'm going to be okay. That really does put us at a measurably higher cancer risk than we would have if we avoided that. So it's a really good idea. If people are drinking, make it small, intermittent, ideally none at all. The payoff is that other forms of cancer get better too. So there you have it. Back to you, Christy.
All right. Thank you so much. And by the way, week 3 of this October is our mocktails. So don't miss out on that Zoom. We're going to have an amazing dietitian, Joe, with us, and Daryl Crisp and his wife, Karen, who is a thriver herself. They also are going to demo some mocktails. So don't miss that one to figure out how to still feel chic, as Dr. Barnard says, drinking our non-alcoholic drinks. We don't have to feel like children, even though it's a Shirley Temple secretly in there. Okay, so I want to talk about exercise and why we should do it. The main reasons are, I already mentioned, estrogen feeds and fuels 80% of breast cancers. Exercise lowers estrogen. It also lowers inflammation. That's obviously just a bad actor altogether. It boosts immune system function, and it can help both create and then maintain weight loss. And as Dr. Barnard will explain in more detail, weight and actually excess weight, right, being overweight or obese, is one of the big boulders on the scale pushing us toward cancer rather than away. So there's a study. People are like, all right, I get it. I should exercise, but what, doctor, is the bare minimum I need to do to see some benefits? And the answer is that, I'll take whatever you're going to give me. There was a really nice postmenopausal study of 17,000 women that showed that merely briskly walking for 11 minutes a day reduced breast cancer by 18%. So not all studies are going to agree we need to have maybe a little bit more pep in your step or many more hours a day. But basically, if you're the kind of person who just isn't an exerciser, but you do know that you need to make those steps, there's a couple of good facts that you should know. One, it's all cumulative. So you could just simply trick yourself into taking some stealthy steps. In other words, park a little at the very last parking spot in the grocery store parking lot and make yourself walk to and from. If you work in an office building, you got to take a bathroom break. Why don't you try going on the bathroom 3 floors down and don't take the elevator, take the stairs and then take the stairs back. At home, you could just flip on some music and start dancing Billy Idol style by yourself or with like the kids or grandkids. You could put a little pep or gusto into your dusting and vacuuming. And if you're on the phone, stand up and walk around. You could do some strategic exercises in the commercial breaks. If you're a TV watcher and still hit commercials, you could do some squats and burpees and promise yourself you're going to do it each commercial break for the duration. One of my favorite things to do is bike to work and back. So my kids and I cycle to school. Their school's 3.2 miles from the house. And then I keep going for another 4 miles to the office. And Emily's going to show you a picture of my office. Aren't you? Yay, there it is. So don't get jealous. That is the ocean back there. But I bike to work and then I have to bike home, which is because it's straight up a mountain. There's like 1,200 feet of elevation gain, and I get home like sopping wet with sweat. And of course, I'm like, oh, I got to take a shower. Oh no, you got to put that back up, Emily, because I have a quiz for everybody. What is missing from this office? I promise I didn't clear it out. Like that's what it looks like. A chair, any chairs. I have never had a chair in my office. I always stand. That's a desk that goes up and down, but I just keep it up. I stand when I eat, always. Even at home, all of us, I make a stand around the kitchen island and eat that way. Not on purpose. I just stand when I eat. Don't do it in restaurants because that would be weird. But I do otherwise always stand. So my point is that just you can use these little decisions throughout the day, and the effect of just a little elevation in your heart rate is cumulative. It all matters. But if you really, really want that A+, like I always got in school as the obnoxious, like 105%, people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, you answer all the questions right, and then you get the extra credit. So if you want the extra credit, work your way toward, if it's fairly leisurely exercise, I define that by like, I can carry on a conversation with you while I'm doing it, like maybe power walking. I want 5 hours a week. If you're super sweaty and can barely talk, vigorous exercise, then you get to drop that in half for 2.5 hours a week. So there you go, exercise. Now, Dr. Barnard, let's talk weight.
Oh, that's so great. I love your office. That's wonderful. Having a bike there. You know what? Because that's not just great for you. It's great for your staff. It's great for everybody who comes in and sees what a role model you are being. Aww. So that's the way to do it. Fabulous. Okay, let's talk about weight. Everybody is thinking, gee, what's a good weight and how do I get rid of some unwanted weight? Losing weight isn't just a cosmetic issue. It really is true that if a person has some unwanted weight and they're able to get rid of it, that does reduce the risk of breast cancer. Now, what it does is it reduces the risk of breast cancer in the postmenopausal period. It doesn't have that benefit in the premenopausal period, but the premenopausal period doesn't last forever. So we want to have a healthy body weight that's really going to be good for the long run. So why would excess weight be linked to cancer? And why would getting rid of excess weight reduce the risk of breast cancer? How does that work? Well, one of the reasons is that we know that estrogens, like estradiol, can be associated with increased cancer risk. Well, fat cells make estradiol. By the way, that's true not just for women, it's true for men too. That in a man's body, testosterone goes into the fat cell, and there are enzymes in there that rearrange that testosterone and it puts out estradiol. So the testosterone goes in, estrogens come out. That's right. Fat cells make female hormones. And you already have the female hormones that nature wanted you to have. If we have too much body fat, we're making too much. What do I do about it? There are all kinds of ways that people try to lose weight. They'll try starving themselves, or they'll go on a really low carb diet where they're missing the healthiest foods. But the best way to really lose weight is what Dr. Funk talked to us about at the very top of the program, and that's plant-based eating. When people go toward healthy fruits and vegetables and grains and beans, skip the animal products, and keep the greasy foods to a minimum, the weight comes down pretty much automatically. And you get a side benefit. Side benefit is you're not only reducing the risk of postmenopausal breast cancer, you're reducing the risk of many other forms of cancer too. reducing the risk of diabetes, reducing the risk of heart disease, and making life a better place. Easiest way to do it, healthy, plant-based diet. Back to you, Dr. Funk.
Thank you. That was such an elegant way to explain why being chubby is detrimental to your health. You know, fat shaming is never where anyone is aiming to point this prong on our four-pronged approach. That's always wrong and inappropriate and senseless. But the truth is that if you are overweight or obese, that fat is not your friend and it's not fabulous. Your body can't kind of forgive that fat forever. And eventually some disease is going to show up, be it diabetes or breast cancer, because it's so intimately tied to it. So here is the good news. Lose the weight, lose the risk. Studies do show that if you land back at your ideal body weight, if you don't know what that is, pinklotus.com/BMI stands for body mass index. You just put in your height and weight and it'll tell you. If you're too chubby, you want to aim to be between 18.5 and 24.9 in that BMI range and see how many pounds you got to lose. And then let's get losing them together. We're going to transition now to telling you about some of the hot topics that have been in the news in the last year that you may or may not have missed, but we'd love for you to know about them. So I'll start from my world of a little bit more of the breast cancer side for a second in terms of the actual the science lab stuff. There are two huge breakthroughs. I'm going to talk about both of these on Good Morning America. So don't tell anyone. Don't do the spoiler alerts. So one of them is called Enhertu. It's the first ever FDA approved medication for metastatic HER2 low patients. And this is incredible because like 2 years ago, I had never heard of HER2 low and it didn't even come into the vernacular. No one talked about anyone being HER2 low until August, like 10 seconds ago because of this. So the FDA approved this new drug Enhertu because it's so useful. And this is who it's for. And if you're a breast cancer thriver, this is going to interest you. So if you're HER2 positive, you've got a ton of HER2 receptors on your cancer, and that's 15 to 20% of all cancers. And they are very aggressive, but they respond well to this targeted drug called Herceptin. But if you're in the 80% that are HER2 negative, oh, not so fast. Turns out 60% of those women actually do have some HER2 receptors, just not enough to be categorically HER2 positive. These are the HER2 lows. They don't care about Herceptin. It doesn't work on them. But Enhertu is like an annihilator. So long story short, go to your path report. If you're HER2 negative, ask your doctor if you're confused, but go to the path report and where it starts talking about the estrogen positive, progesterone positive or negative, then it says HER2. And it does it in two ways. First, it just is a HER2, it might say IHC, it might say the whole word immunohistochemistry, but it's going to give you a number. It's 0, 1, 2, or 3. If it's 3, you're positive. If it's 0, you're negative. But if it's 1 or 2, and this is literally 100,000 invasive breast cancers year after year in the US will be HER2 low because they have a 1 or 2 plus. And then they're eligible for Enhertu, which is not a drug you want to take like eating kale. Like it's not pleasant. It has its side effects. But if you're metastatic, it can be a life extender, and it's been shown in these studies. So that's super cool and huge. The other one is a massive stride forward in precision medicine. The test I'm talking about is useful for anybody with a solid tumor, whether they have it now or had it in the past. So we're talking not just breast, but prostate, lung, colon, liver, gastric, ovarian, every organ. Just not blood-borne cancers, so no lymphoma, leukemia, or multiple myeloma yet. They're working on that. So the test is called Signatera. You can ask your doctor to order it or go to tumordna.com to learn more and order it yourself. But this is what it does. So once you get it ordered, the company is going to get your cancer slides or your friends or your dad's or whoever, and they're going to analyze it for all these DNA mutations and pick out 16 different mutations that uniquely belong to your cancer. Then they will come to your house and draw your blood. It all goes through insurance, by the way. They're going to take your blood and run it through that blood test they made. If you're truly cured, you should never have any of these 16 fragments flying around in your blood, right? Like they belong in a bucket in a lab somewhere. So what I do with the breast patients is test them every 3 months. And at the 2-year mark, if they are consistently negative, they statistically have less than a 3% chance of ever recurring. But if their test turns positive, this is a huge heads up. This on average is 9.5 months before a PET CT lights up. Symptoms like bone pain show up, or tumor markers like CEA rise up. So you can intervene and hopefully stave off a fatal recurrence. The other 2 huge ways to use Signatera are if you have stage 4 metastatic cancer, or you have cancer and you're doing chemo before surgery. You can use this. I then check it monthly because I want fast information on whether what you're pursuing is working to bring the trend of cells that are spewed out from that cancer into your bloodstream down, down, down. If they level out and go up, we've got to change the strategy that we're looking at. And the final way to use it is, you know what, I've already had my colon out or my breast lumpectomy. Do I really need to do the chemotherapy that you're telling me I need to do? Because it's always an odds game. It's like an insurance policy. If you do the chemo, the 30% chance of recurrence becomes 10. Well, what if you were in the 70 the whole time? You did the chemotoxicity for nothing. So this is off the beaten path and your oncologist will freak out, but it's just kind of factual. Like if you don't have cancer cells in your blood, what's the chemo killing? And it's not like we do one test and be like, oh, you're dying, because it can be below the threshold of detection. So that's why we have to keep doing it every 3 months. In those patients who should get chemo and don't, I usually move the cadence up to like every month so we can watch you like a hawk. Anyway, I'm obsessed. I think it's the future and it's now. So tumordna.com. The other things are not breakthroughs. They're just really fun studies. And I'm going to give 100% props to Dr. Neal Barnard and the rest of the team at PCRM because they feed me these amazing studies that I don't always catch because there are so many of them, but they highlighted some that are doozies. I'm kind of loving them. One of them pitted the plant-based diet versus the ketogenic diet as 2 different ways to address cancer. And guess what, my friends? Eat plants, crush cancer. Oh yeah, the plants won. So that was an awesome study to see. Another one, I love mushrooms, and it's just always delightful to see confirmation. There was a meta-analysis including 10 different studies on mushrooms, and the high versus low consumers had an average of 35% less breast cancer. In case you're wondering, like, so these like more expensive chanterelle and portobello, or actually it's the maitake, shiitake, and reishi that have these ergothioneine is what's in it, and it's very anti-aging, anti-cancer, antioxidant. But it turns out to be the cheapo little white button mushroom that is available in most produce departments that has the most estrogen lowering ability, and it is through that mechanism that this one astounding study showed a 64% drop in breast cancer versus no mushroom consumers for eating half a button a day. I mean, the size of the tip of your thumb. So I'm a little mushroom obsessed. There's one more I wanted to tell you about. Oh, it's carbohydrate intake and breast cancer survival. So a lot of cancer patients are savvy and they're researching stuff and they're like, I'm not supposed to eat sugar, right? Because cancers feed on sugar. Yes, they do, but so does every cell in your body. So you can't effectively be like completely sugar-free or you'll be dead, which is one way to get rid of the cancer. Probably not the preferred way. So it's about what kind of sugar you're eating. And there was a really great study looking at breast cancer patients over a 14-year period, or 11.4, a long time. And they looked at total sugar, fructose and sucrose, whole fruits versus fruit juice, and refined grains and whole grains. And then, of course, your awesome veggies. And the bottom line is to understand that whole foods, even if they are allegedly high carbohydrates, so high sugar, like a fruit, like a grape or an orange or a sweet potato, they come packaged with so much like lattice work of fiber and other nutrients packed inside of it. It takes your body a lot of work to break that down. And the real damage is happening when the sugar molecule, the carbohydrate, is already broken down for you, like if you're downing juice or even maple syrup on a pancake. That's a simple sugar that you're pouring on something, you're adding it. So those are rapidly absorbed by the bloodstream. So you get high glucose, which is one thing. It's really the insulin that comes chasing after that high glucose to manage it all that stays chronically high. That is your problem. So insulin is a direct screamer at breast cancer cells to grow and metastasize. Insulin is an angiogenic substance in excess. I mean, again, it's kind of like the IGF thing, right? IGF-1, you have a normal amount. It's when you go super physiologic that these hormones are like, what am I supposed to do all day? Like, I guess I'll just do my thing and scream at things to grow and duplicate and bring stuff, blood flow. So yes, you can have fruit. And there was zero increase in breast cancer mortality for the fruit consumers. There was a dramatic drop in breast cancer mortality for the vegetable consumers and the whole grain consumers. Everybody else, their mortality went up. Everybody else being consumers of your simple sugars, of your sucrose and fructose, which you're finding hidden in every food that's in a package on planet Earth, from ketchup to cookies, cakes, pastries, pie, soda, you name it, it's in there. And then your refined grains. So you know this, right? Like if the first word is enriched, they already lost like the bran and the part that makes it a whole grain. White rice is brown rice without the outside of it. So you always want to see the word whole. And then it's fine. You don't have to shy away from whole wheat pasta, whole grain barley, whole oats, not instant oatmeal, but old-fashioned oats, or better yet, steel cut oats. So there's my breaking news for you. And Neal, what do you have?
Well, let me make sure I understood. I guess that's okay.
That is awesome. An apple a day keeps
How about
cancer
that one?
away.
Is that all right too?
Terrific.
All right,
Love it.
great.
The
Thank you.
nutrients are in the peel, so do not make that into apple juice, my friends.
Oh, eat the whole. Oh, I get
Like,
it.
eat the banana peel too.
I'm not sure about that. Okay, I got a quickie for you that I just want to share. Just taking our temperature as to where we are. This is brand new, just came out. And it's a bad news and a good news kind of thing. Bad news is when you look at the stats over about the past 3 decades, breast cancer rates have gone up. They're inching up about 0.5% every year. Bad news. Good news is that the likelihood of dying of the cancer is going down. And it's been going down more than about a percent per year. And the last, since about 1989, mortality has dropped by a good 40% or so. So that's good news. But there's more bad news. Is there has been, and you've heard about this, a racial disparity, that Black women are less likely to get cancer, but more likely to die of it. That has not changed. It has just stayed stubbornly there, that there's an increased risk of cancer mortality, breast cancer mortality among Black women, and it's about a 40% increased risk. That's the bad news. Good news is this is not based on genes. It's really based on things that we can control. So it brings us back to those 4 prongs we've been talking about. Healthy diet, lacing up our sneakers, avoiding the alcohol, tackling our weight. And I am thinking that if we can really put these to work for everybody, we're going to be able to erase that disparity. Okay, let me shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about some resources. We have some resources at letsbeatbreastcancer.org where you can sign up. You can take our October challenge. You're going to see an e-cookbook there. Some really cool recipes for you. And also, if you're looking for some support and regular input, you can sign up to be on our email list, and we're going to spoon feed you things all along. Christy, I know you've got some terrific resources as well.
I do indeed. So if you go to pinklotus.com /powerup, or just pinklotus.com, it's in the lower left. Power Up is this wonderful, massive, free community, and we're so hoping that you will join us. There's a lot to offer there in terms of blogs and education. I have my cancer kicking kitchen that's in there. I do live cooking once a month with my holistic nutritionist BFF Chrissy. We also have the virtual and live cancer kicking summit that I put on every year. They're the really fun communal things though, and one that's hot off the press from just this year is called Local Chapters. I have 25 local chapters across the country in major cities, and it's where like-minded cancer kickers, you don't have to have had cancer, you just have to want to be walking the talk and following the 4-pronged approach together with community and support and laughter and a few hugs. So we go on biking trips, and not trips, just like a biking day, hikes, walks. I have a camping trip coming up. I have a group fast coming up. Okay, so my voracious vegan actually just asked, but if sugar feeds cancer, wouldn't a vegan keto diet be even more powerful at combating cancer? So yes, but it's not the most sustainable way to eat. And you will then be missing out on some really critical phytonutrients and most of all, fiber. I'm not sure you're going to get a high fiber diet out of being in a vegan ketosis, but temporary vegan ketosis is extremely beneficial. And that, my friends, is what we're doing November 7th for 5 days. So we use Walter Longo's approach using Prolon. And then we're going to meet on Zoom for dinner because we have to have that miserable like astronaut soup, and misery loves company. You know, I've done this so many times and I always think like, oh, I'm really good at it. It's no big deal. And like by day 3, I'm like, I miss my salad. So I don't really know how you would be like in a vegan ketosis, voracious vegan for the long haul, but doing it sporadically and depending on what your situation is, I recommend every 3 to 4 months on the front end of cancer. Sometimes I do it every month with people, but yes, less sugar is better, but it again comes into the packaging of the sugar. So the whole foods are not going to give you, that whole spike. The other thing besides the local chapters, so it's really fun, check them out, sign up and start joining the group, is Breast Buddies. If you've had breast cancer, this is a wonderful organization, totally free, where you sign up either as a newly diagnosed person or someone who's been there, done that. And then it matches you stage for stage, treatment for treatment, and surgery for surgery with somebody new, with someone who's been there. So if you're new, you'll go and you'll say like 42 years old, mastectomy, chemotherapy, tamoxifen, and then like Match.com for breasts will pop up all the women who are plus or minus 5 years from you who did those exact same things, and they're on the back end of it though. And then you can look and be like, oh wait, she has a 10-year-old son. I do too. I want to talk to her. So Breast Buddies is completely there for you for psychosocial support and advice and just friendship because of the LACE study, which followed 2,200 early stage breast cancers for 10.8 years and found a 58% increase in mortality from breast cancer in those who reported out low levels of psychosocial support and friendship. So not everybody has a BFF. Not everybody loves their family. It's not their fault where they're born into. And everyone can have a breast buddy. So check out the resources at pinklotus.com. Oh, do you know what I wanted to talk about also? Giveaways. Let's talk a little bit directly about the LBBC campaign. So before we get into giveaways, I want to tell you that we have these awesome shirts this year, and I couldn't even decide which would be the best one to wear. So I wore a couple to show you how cool all these shirts are. Eat plants, crush cancer. That is the best slogan ever. And these shirts are so comfortable. And this one, I'm just loving the sleeves. And it's like a little shorter in the front than it is in the back. I feel like I should just hop on a motorcycle. Check out the t-shirts. All the proceeds go to lbbc.org. So when you sign up, as Dr. Neal was saying, you get all the fun free like e-cookbook and chance at raffles and giveaways. But today we have a really fun giveaway going on. Did you want to talk about that, Dr. Neal?
Well, if I am recalling correctly, people, as soon as we're done here, people can go to Pink Lotus or the Physicians Committee Instagram pages. You head over there, not now, but as soon as we're done, if you would, and you can sign up and you can enter to win right on our Instagram pages.
Yes, you can. It's on both our Instagrams. So there's just a few things you have to do in order to get your entry. And you, my friend, may be the lucky winner of these items this week. You get a complimentary pass to my Pink Lotus Cancer Kicking Summit. That is the virtual version. So you can watch it in the luxury of your own home, all 11 and a half hours of it. And you get a copy for you and a friend of the national bestseller Breasts, the Owner's Manual by yours truly. And you get a Boost Your Health Care package from Pink Lotus Elements, which is our online women's health store, just filled with vetted, reputable, intelligently formulated products and other items to help you before, during, and after a breast cancer diagnosis. And you're going to get some of these awesome t-shirts and other swag from the Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign.
That's fantastic. We do have a couple of questions. I think we're a little bit over time, but if you don't mind hanging on with me, can I throw 2 questions your way?
Please do.
Okay, we had a question that came in from V Lam. I hope I'm saying you're right, saying your name right. And the question was, there's genetics, there's diet, there's exercise, there's stress. Which one of these has the biggest impact?
Diet. It really does. You know why? Because like I was saying, you chew and swallow and you put these chemicals right in the face of these cells. So when you have mental stress, you are increasing things like C-reactive protein, interleukins, and inflammation, cortisol, all of that's racing around, and it's also not healthy, but it's indirect. There are really boulders that are just so heavy on this scale, pushing you toward cancer, that if you throw a pebble like stress, like hormone replacement therapy, like environmental toxicities, including the BPA in water bottles, onto a scale that has boulders on it, I mean, yeah, it can tip a scale a little lower, but it's already got the boulders. So the biggest of the boulders is the diet, and you want it to be a plant-based diet. And that's where the 4 prongs come from. Those are the 4 biggest things that the science shows have a direct connection between doing it right or wrong and avoiding cancer or getting it.
Great. Here's a question that came in. I bet you get this all the time. What about soy products? The person's saying, love tofu, love soy milk. Will it help? Will it hurt? What do you say, Dr. Funk?
It will always help and never hurt as long as it's non-GMO, preferably organic. But here's the deal, and I'm so sorry, anybody who knows me from between 2001 and 2017, I was telling all my breast cancer patients to spew miso right out of their mouths because it was a phytoestrogen, plant-based estrogens, and estrogen receptors on cancers. Like, of course, they can fit into each other and make the cancers grow. And then I went to write the science behind why you should avoid soy in my book. And I was like, oh, embarrassingly wrong. Like, not only just wrong, because soy isn't neutral. Soy is a superfood when it comes to decreasing breast cancer occurrence, recurrence, and death. Every single study in humans and breast cancer that has ever been done has only shown a protective effect. And the numbers are squarely centered around the percentage 32%. So there's 32% less occurrence, recurrence, and death from breast cancer in all the major studies, plus or minus. And the forms of soy that are healthful, the fermented, like tempeh, miso, natto, tamari can have a lot of salt. Those are fermented and they can be easier on your digestive system. But all of these studies really mostly just looked at tofu and soy milk, like not edamame or soybeans or anything, but all of those are healthy. Your soy protein isolate, I would avoid. It is, found in like as a meat tenderizer, right? It's in the fake meats. That has none of the isoflavones. The genistein and daidzein that are so healthful and protective are just gonzo when you do a soy protein isolate. So it's probably just like inflammatory at that point. Soy is a superfood. Go for it with abandon.
That is going to amaze people because somehow this urban myth came around that tofu and soy milk are a big problem. But as you said, that the science has come in and it's not ambiguous. It's really pretty clear that the women who follow the advice of avoiding soy don't do so well. That the women who bring the soy back into their diet really do well. So, I love your advice. If it says organic, it cannot be GMO.
Right. And actually, you just finished a powerful study about soy and menopause symptoms and decreasing hot flashes, which it most definitely does.
And that was a big surprise because, frankly, we thought the effects would be small. Lots of women at menopause have hot flashes that are driving them crazy, making it hard to sleep at night. And so we did a study of vegan diet, low fat, half a cup of soybeans. And what we found is that the hot flashes over time diminished and diminished and diminished and were reduced by close to 90%. I'm talking about the moderate to severe hot flashes, the ones that wake you up at night. So that's a good thing. All right, I see we are out of time. Thanks for staying extra. Let me see if you have some final words for everybody, Dr. Funk. And if you'd like to remind people about joining us again next week, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So don't forget, head on over to letsbeatbreastcancer.org and sign up to join us in the 4-pronged approach against breast cancer if you have not already, and then receive all of your fun information and e-cookbook and giveaways. But don't forget the big giveaway of the day, which ends Sunday, by the way. You have until Sunday to comply. You go to my Instagram page or to Physicians Committee, and that's the page for you, right? Yes. Right?
That's us.
You have so many. And next week is we're doing a cook along with Evelise Capo, and she's incredible, and I can't wait to see what she's cooking up in the kitchen. I'm going to be in my kitchen doing a cook along with her.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thanks to everybody for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Funk.
Thank you, Dr. Barnard.
See you next week.
Be well, everyone.